Polly, oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Hi, this is James White from Red List News, and I'm joined by my broadcast partner, Mike Adams of inaugural.com, and this is Health Revolt. Now, Mike and I have interviewed each other before. He's been on the Liberty Brothers radio show a couple times. I've interviewed him on Red List News, and we decided to join forces here, Red List News and Natural News, to have a weekly health-related broadcast that we're going to be broadcasting on Sundays. And I tell you, Mike, I'm just so delighted that we had a chance to hook up, and thanks so much for being a part of Health Revolt.
Hey, James. Look, it's my honor, my pleasure to join you in this endeavor. I really appreciate the invitation. With your questions and some of the sources that I'm tuned into through Natural News and other efforts, we can bring a lot of great information to people. So I'm ready to go. I'm excited about Health Revolt. Let's get right to it. It's awesome.
Yeah, indeed, Mike. And that's one of the things, of course, that no matter who you are, where you live, what socioeconomic class you belong to, we always have to be concerned about our health because it's really indiscriminate. It hits people of all different classes, colors, races, creeds. So this is really, I think, a vital topic. It certainly is covered extensively by your website, but there's nothing wrong with diving into this stuff a lot deeper because it really does affect everybody. I mean, there's not one single person I can think of that can get out of it, that can get away from health.
It's so true, and as you'll learn, those of you listening, as you listen to more and more of these Health Revolt shows, you'll learn that you are being systematically poisoned, deliberately poisoned by the food manufacturers. They deliberately remove the nutrients that you need. For example, sugar cane, they refine the sugar cane. They take out about 98% of the key minerals that you need. They are feeding you toxic poison refined white sugar while the minerals are sent off to be fed to ranch animals because there is no health insurance for ranch animals and ranchers have to keep them alive and healthy to make money off those animals. So they're taking foods like sugar or wheat or others, they're refining them, they're feeding you humans the poison, and then they're feeding the animals the nutrients to keep them healthy. I mean, that is how messed up our food system is, and that just barely scratches the surface.
Well, Mike, I think for people out there that may be unfamiliar with your work, and there may be a few, you cracked open the whole lid of fraud on McDonald's with your laboratory experiments on the chicken McNuggets and everything that was included. There's people out there that probably maybe that'd be the first time that they had heard of you was because of that report. If you could, just for a background, go over a little bit of that to kind of catch people up. That was really groundbreaking. I think that was probably one of the biggest reports, I would guess, ever in natural news as far as widespread coverage. Can you
Yeah,
talk about that?
you're right. Yeah, I think Drudge even headlined that particular story. So as I got into the food industry and as an investigative journalist looking at food, where it comes from, and how it's propagandized by these corporations, eventually we came to the conclusion that we needed to launch our own laboratory. So we spent an enormous amount of money, over $1 million. We built a private lab. I got up to speed on becoming the lab director. I'm not going to be the lab director next year. We actually have another lab director taking over that role, but um, I hired chemists and so on, and we got very high-end, high-powered microscopes, digital microscopes, and videography system. We have an ICP-MS from Agilent, which is a heavy metals detection instrument. It costs about $250,000 by itself, and it detects elements down to 1 part per billion. And we've used that also. I've been able to create formulas that are patent pending now for the removal of radiation, radioactive isotopes of cesium, strontium, uranium, and even iodine, understanding which substances can remove those elements. And that research is going into a project we're doing for developing world radiation filters and things like that. For the McDonald's story, that was simply a microscopy story. We took chicken McNuggets, we put them under the microscope. That wasn't even a heavy metals test or anything. I spent quite a few hours touring chicken McNuggets under a microscope. You got to understand, when you're at a magnification like 200 times or 300 times, a chicken McNugget looks like the size of like a football field, and you can cruise around it with a microscope and you can find interesting things. And we found all these strange colored fibers, like a red and yellow, blue fibers. And to me, they looked like what's commonly called Morgellons disease. I'm not saying that there's Morgellons in chicken McNuggets. I'm just saying that visually, it reminded me of the photos that I've seen of this mysterious Morgellons disease, which is itself a completely separate topic. But that story went viral. A lot of people were asking, what are these strange fibers doing in chicken McNuggets, and why am I eating this? So that's just a small part of what we do in the lab.
Yeah, and to catch people up, Morgellons disease is I'm not going to give you this exact scientific description, but it's where these things come out of these little, I guess they're probably artifacts or objects come out of people's skin, and I think they've even detected that there's been actual writing, text on some of these artifacts. So it's kind of a strange thing, this Morgellons, no
Yeah,
doubt about
it's
it.
right. That deserves a whole investigation all by
It
itself.
does indeed. All right, Mike, let's move over to natural news here. And this story, we're going to move over here and talk about your most viewed articles. Now, the first one at the top here is, the stabbing of Dr. Mary Renee Bouvier in her home marks the 10th alternative doctor murdered in the past few months. Now, I'm not saying that this is actually going on here. I'm just gonna throw this out as a speculation. You know that Monsanto, I believe, have their own private army now. Basically, they have their own. I think they purchased or at least put a large amount of money down in a stake on what was formerly Blackwater or one of those type of organizations. So obviously, people that study, and I'm not implicating them. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it. Looks like a duck, talks like a duck. These people are known to really they actually are killing people with what they do. That there's no doubt about that. So I don't think human life is really high on their list of priorities. So it wouldn't surprise me if them or some other organization was behind something like this. But that 10 alternative doctors murdered is a lot, Mike. There's no coincidence there. What say you?
I think that the conventional medical system and the conventional food and agriculture systems are both about to collapse under the failure of their policies and under the disclosure that's happening thanks to activists and journalists like yourself and many others out there. The truth is coming out, and these industries are turning to truly desperate measures that are vicious and that are criminal. And I know for a fact, firsthand, that the biotech industry runs a black ops division. I know this as an absolute fact because I have been targeted by this black ops division. I am by necessity licensed to carry a concealed firearm in the state of Texas and in three other states as well, by the way. And for the purpose of self-defense, I have a firearm on right now, right this minute. And I always wear a firearm. There are doctors that are being killed, homeopaths, naturopaths, alternative medicine people. They are clearly being killed. The death circumstances look like assassinations. No one can prove it yet at this point, but it looks like way more than just coincidence. I think it's reasonable for us to believe that our lives are in danger, especially when you look at the tactics that these people use that we already have uncovered, like these secret emails that came out about these Monsanto operatives. One of them, a professor at the University of Florida, for example, emails where he's saying, you pay me money and I'll say whatever you want me to say. Um, and then publicly they proclaim that they are completely independent. They have no ties to Monsanto. But as these documents come out, we find out, well, they're getting free trips to Hawaii. The hotel rooms are prepaid by Monsanto. They're getting grant money from Monsanto. Universities are getting paid by Monsanto and so on. So, like you said, we can't prove that this is happening, but I know that there is an aggressive criminal viciousness in the biotech industry especially, but also behind the cancer industry. They do not want people to find cures for cancer, and they are willing to kill in order to stop those cures from coming out. And I know for sure the biotech industry is willing to kill people that are dangerous to the future of the biotech business. And rest assured, James, the biotech industry wants to dominate the world food supply by controlling all the seeds of all the crops that humans eat. They want absolute total control of the world by dominating the seeds through intellectual property claims, poisonous herbicides like glyphosate, and so on. So, on the surface, they promote themselves, well, we're a natural company with a big leaf as our logo, but behind the scenes, they are vicious criminal operatives who I think are willing to kill people.
Well, Mike, when I worked in the medical industry for quite some time, ran a clinic, and had a great deal of exposure to the drug reps that would come in. And it sounds to me like Monsanto is doing the same thing that these drug companies would do to the doctors, just shower them with gifts and vacations and their condos on the beaches, at various points across the world, for them really to be pushers of their toxic drug, concoction. And and
Yes.
and, and this is, I mean, this is to the point where in one case, this doctor's daughter got out of school and, of course, landed a really sweet, pretty much barely show up job, at a major drug company because of all the great work that the doctor had done. And it's just it's almost an incestuous relationship that they have, Mike, between doctors and drug companies. And then doctors are supposed to be the ones. I mean, they have almost no background on nutrition.
Right.
They don't. They know how. It's doctors prescribe medicine basically. They know about medicine. They don't know about prevention.
No, you're exactly right. And keep in mind that the pharmaceutical industry proved, and this was uncovered by the U.S. Department of Justice in a record settlement. I think it was a $2 billion settlement with GlaxoSmithKline. And we interviewed the first whistleblower who came out. He used to be a drug rep for Glaxo. He was the government's witness in this massive settlement. GlaxoSmithKline admitted to committing felony crimes as part of this settlement. They admitted running a bribery network encompassing 44,000 doctors in the United States alone, right? 44,000 doctors were on the take from GlaxoSmithKline. Now, in academia, in the universities, it's the same thing except they're on the take from Monsanto. So Monsanto, Syngenta, DuPont, they give big money to the universities, and then they buy off the professors of agriculture especially, and then those professors go out and they just parrot the Monsanto propaganda in the same way that these bribed doctors are parroting big pharma propaganda. Industry has taken over not only the academic institutions and the mainstream media, but also the government. So we have technically a fascist government system now where the corporations run the government regulators. The FDA is an extension of Big Pharma. The USDA is an extension of Monsanto. The EPA, which now is a huge polluter itself, is an extension of the pollution industries. The DEA runs the drugs in America. I mean, you could just go on down the list. Every government agency is actually controlled by the industry that it once claimed to regulate. And this is called, by the way, regulatory capture. It's a known phenomenon, it's well documented, and we are far, far down the rabbit hole now where our government is so corrupted that it no longer recognizes any oath to the people. It is entirely sold out to corporate interests. So we are now living under absolute fascist government in America today.
Well, Mike, you have the revolving door between these government agencies you just mentioned and CEOs and high level people in these same companies that are supposed to be regulated. That happens a lot. People, high level people in drug companies go on to work for the government in the FDA and other agencies. And then you have, like you talked before, you have the Obamacare, the exemptions from that alone. I mean,
Right.
look how unfair that is, because Bob's hamburger stand can't sell a 99-cent hamburger because he has to pay for insurance. Why McDonald's gets a waiver and they can sell their 99-cent, if you even want to call it food, they can sell that, and they can put Bob's hamburger stand out of commission, or because he can't compete. And I
Yeah.
mean that is a clear example of that. So no, you're right onto something. And you touched on it earlier here. The next story I want to talk about here on your website here is you talked about this guy Kevin Folta, scientist gone wild. Discredited Monsanto shill Kevin Folta unleashes Twitter aneurysm, accuses you, Health Ranger, of violence and the food babe of terrorism. Now it sounds like this guy is basically just a spring popped in his head or something, and he's just sort of lost his mind there. Mike, what's going on with this guy calling you a terrorist? I don't see you as being a violent guy, Mike. What do you say?
We see this across the board with the Monsanto tends to attract the most mentally unstable sort of violent people. We exposed a guy, another Monsanto shill last year. His name is John Entine. We got a hold of his divorce documents where his wife was describing how he was choking her on their front porch in front of their daughter, and she filed with the court that he was engaged in domestic abuse and that he actually purchased spy surveillance devices to spy on his own wife. And this is all on naturalnews.com if you want to search for John Entine, Jonentine. Now, this guy, Kevin Folta, University of Florida, reminds me of John Entine because he's been all over the mainstream media flinging accusations against the food babe, calling her things like a huckster or a quack or a fraud, a scam artist, everything. Because the food babe wants clean food. That's her thing, right? She just wants, get the chemicals out of the food, get the GMOs labeled, let's have some clean food, right? So Kevin Folta calls her a terrorist, and publications like The Atlantic give him a voice, and the New York Times and whatever, Washington Post. And in all these articles, he's saying, well, I have no financial ties to Monsanto. I wouldn't even think of it. I'm completely independent, And then all these documents come out. Turns out he's got a huge financial link to Monsanto, $25,000. It was on these trips where the hotel rooms were paid by Monsanto. So everything the food babe was saying that he had links to Monsanto turns out to be true. And he conned the Atlantic, and he conned all these newspapers that were quoting him. So as I point this out, this guy unleashes a Twitter aneurysm and says that I'm promoting violence against him, that even though there's no violence anywhere. I called him a crybaby and a douchebag. So if you consider that violence, maybe he's thinking of a violent douchebag somewhere. But these people are insane, truly.
I love the caption, and you can go on the Natural News and see this guy with you putting a bottle up to his mouth.
Yeah,
That's
baby
hilarious.
bottle.
That's great. And Mike, you see, this is not uncommon. I mean, you look at this clown right here. You look at Brian Williams, who, I mean, basically, I'm surprised his pants didn't catch on fire while he was actually broadcasting.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is like, it seems to me, Mike, that this is not the exception as opposed to the rule, that the majority of these things that come out of these people's mouths are lies. And
Yeah.
it's not always lies of commission. It's a lot of times, lies of omission. They just don't tell the full truth. They tell a slanted side of their truth, and they don't tell the other side. So this is I hope this is one thing that this Health Revolt
Well,
does here, is brings out more truth in media, because it's lacking, man. It's seriously lacking in mainstream
but
media.
I have a theory on this that needs to be considered, that these people, because people like Kevin Folta, John Entine, whatever, all these GMO shills, they hate organic food, they hate nutrition. So they don't take supplements, they don't eat well, they don't take superfoods, they don't believe in sunlight or exercise or health. What they do is they eat a lot of GMOs because that's what they love to talk about. So they're eating glyphosate. And my theory is that they are being mentally poisoned by the food that they are promoting, which is the genetically modified glyphosate laced food. They're being mentally poisoned, and in my opinion, they're being driven clinically insane by these toxic foods that they want everybody in the country to eat. So it's not a coincidence, in my view, that the people promoting GMOs happen to be violent, insane, douchebags. I think there's a cause and effect relationship there.
Well, Mike, I know you're not a a doctor in this sense, but you've seen, speaking of GMO, we've all seen the images of the rats that have been said, I think second or third generation rats that have been fed GMO food, and they've got the large tumors all over their body. You've probably seen
Right.
those photos. How closely do you know? How closely, anatomically speaking, is the rat's anatomy to the humans? I mean, are we, if we keep eating GMOs, are we going to have those type of things pop up on us, or will that manifest itself in human beings in a different way? Can
Well,
you answer that?
rats are used for laboratory research precisely because they are nearly identical to human physiology. They have a very similar endocrine system, a very similar reproductive system, circulatory, nervous system, skeletal system, and so on. They have a shortened life cycle. Obviously, they don't live as long as humans, which makes them easier to study for transgenerational type of effects, and that's why they're chosen. But the only thing really closer to us in terms of what's used by science is primates, chimpanzees, and it's considered less of an ethical violation to use, rats for them. So, but rats, they exhibit. This is the reason they're used because they can be the canary in the coal mine. And when these rats were fed glyphosate and GMOs, they grew these horrendous tumors. I mean, some of these tumors were larger than the rats' heads. Like they had to drag these tumors across
Crazy, crazy.
the floor as they're walking, right? And the tumors came with eating just GMOs. Other tumors were just glyphosate, and then there were others that had tumors from doing both GMOs and glyphosate. Now, here's the thing. This is what your audience needs to absolutely understand. Glyphosate is now being sprayed on the wheat crops. So if you're eating wheat products, which is bread, muffins, pasta, wheat products that are not organic, you are probably eating massive doses of cancer-causing glyphosate. And by the way, the state of California just put glyphosate on its list of known cancer-causing chemicals, and the World Health Organization has already announced that glyphosate is a, quote, probable carcinogen that they've put into that category, and it's probably going to go into the absolutely well-known carcinogen pretty soon. So if you are eating wheat that isn't organic, again, I'm talking about bread, hot dog buns, hamburger buns, cookies, cakes made from wheat, that wheat is sprayed with massive doses of cancer-causing glyphosate to dry it out right before harvest, so that goes right into the bread, right into the wheat flakes, the breakfast cereal, everything. You are poisoning yourself if you're eating non-organic wheat. Now, if you eat organic, certified USDA organic wheat, then the glyphosate is not allowed to be sprayed on it, and you won't get hardly any exposure to it. So this is a huge reason to eat organic.
Well, Mike, speaking of that, glyphosate, the Kellogg's cereals found to be contaminated with Monsanto's cancer-causing glyphosate. Now, Kellogg's is, as far as I can remember, them and Kellogg's and Post are probably two of the largest cereal manufacturers, in the nation, perhaps the world. I don't know. Um,
General Mills
General
is up
Mills,
there.
there you go
Yeah.
too. Yeah, of course, General Mills. Um, this is huge because I would imagine millions of Americans probably eat this. What is it? The Koshi, the Kellogg's
Kashi.
Kashi, Go Lean. Probably millions of Americans eat this. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would imagine plenty of people eat this thinking they're eating healthier, really, because they're sort of told that, and it's marketed
Right.
that way. Not in fact true, is it, Mike?
Exactly. Kashi is a great example of a grocery product that is positioned as a healthy natural product, but it actually isn't. In fact, the GMO Free USA released the lab results, and they found that Kashi had about 600% more cancer-causing glyphosate than did Fruit Loops cereal. So you're actually getting more of this chemical in Kashi thinking you're eating natural. Now, a lot of grocery stores have been persuaded to position Kashi on the shelf near the cereals that are organic. And for example, there's a cereal company called Nature's Path. Nature's Path is the most trustworthy cereal company. Everything they sell is certified organic. They wouldn't touch GMOs. They even bought their own farms to grow their own wheat so that they could control the quality. I mean, if you want good, healthy cereal, buy Nature's Path. But a lot of grocery stores would put Kashi near Nature's Path, And so consumers will be confused. They think, oh, I'm shopping in the organic section here, and oh, there's kashi, and it looks like, I don't know, there's healthy people on the cover. It looks natural. So they pick that up, not knowing they're actually eating glyphosate. So a lot of this goes on where companies like PepsiCo or Coca-Cola or Nestle, these big food conglomerates, they own all these small brands that sound natural, but they're not. So you really need to know what you're buying and what's in it. And you unfortunately you can't see this on the label. They're not going to list glyphosate on the label. And all these companies, including the Kashi company, Kellogg's, they've been trying to block GMO labeling so that you don't have a right to know whether you're eating GMOs. I mean, think about it. They just want to keep you in the dark. They want you to be illiterate or uninformed about what you're eating. That is their goal.
No, I agree with you. Mike, as we come here to the end of our first broadcast, it seemed like it went so fast on Health
Yeah,
Revolt.
yeah, it did.
Let's try to give the listeners out there something to leave with. Now, it's been told, and you probably are very familiar with this. I've heard that if you have to shop in a grocery store, and some people have the benefit of being able to grow gardens, some people don't. Some people have the benefit of being around, healthy stores, natural grocer, that type of thing. But what if you have to just go to the everyday grocery store and get your stuff, and that's the best you have? You live in a small town. Isn't it not? I've heard it said that it's much better to shop on the outside of the aisles as
True.
opposed to the middle. Go over that a little bit if you can. So for people that want to leave them with something positive, as I said, if they're shopping in that type of environment, give them an idea of the type of things they can buy on the outside of the grocery aisles that would help them out.
Well, obviously the fresh produce section is where you want to go for the most part. I mean, I still go to grocery stores from time to time. I I can't even remember the last time I was even in one of the center lanes and aisles of all the processed manufactured food. I go to the fresh produce aisle. I pick up, all the carrots, the celery, the potatoes, the organic grapes, whatever, everything that I need there. And then sometimes I'll go over to the frozen section and I'll get the frozen organic blueberries, frozen organic strawberries, things to make smoothies. I'll pick up avocados, organic bananas, all these things, and then I would take them home, mix them with my superfoods, high quality, clean whey protein and superfood formulas and so on, making smoothies that I have for breakfast and lunch. So if you find yourself shopping in the I don't know, a hamburger helper section, let's say, you are not eating in a healthy manner. If your dinner is Kraft macaroni and cheese, right? Uh, you need to go to Natural News and learn how to upgrade your diet. And if you don't mind, I want to plug the best new website to get all the breaking news in real time, and that's alternativenews.com. Right there, it's kind of like the real-time Drudge Report, covering everything from the Natural News universe and all these other websites that we are launching as well, including election news, Donald Trump news, liberty, science and technology, finance, collapse, everything. Just go to alternativenews.com. It's refreshed in real time. It's a whole universe of all the news that the mainstream media refuses to report. So, if you want to be entertained with fake news, go to MSNBC. If you want to be informed, go to alternativenews.com, and
Well, let's not
just
leave out
stay informed.
let's not leave out the Good Gopher. Let's not leave out the Good Gopher search engine, and then your fetch.news as well, which is an excellent site, also sort of a news aggregation type of a site. So yeah, Mike, you got a lot of irons in the fire, and
We got a lot going on with that. Yeah, we fetch.news is really cool because you can focus on a specific topic. Like you can go to Fetch and bring up the fluoride site, which is just fluoride.news, and you can monitor all the news about fluoride in real time from the alternative media, the mainstream media, and also academia. We monitor about 1,000 universities, all the real-time news coming out from those universities, as well as everything coming out across the media. So, we're trying to give people tools that they can use to stay informed. More and more people are realizing this is why they're listening to Red List News. I mean, they know mainstream media is lying to them all the time. So why bother listening to mainstream media? You should switch the channel and actually get the truth for a change.
well, Mike, I appreciate that, and you're right on target with that. We just want to thank everybody for joining us here on the very first episode of Health Revolt with myself, James White from Red List News, and Mike Adams from naturalnews.com. And Mike, I'm really excited that we're actually getting going on this and looking forward to speaking next week, same time, same channel.
Sounds good, James.
Anything you'd like to say before we go?
No, we've covered it. I'll see you next week, and I'm sure there will be more insanity happening in the next week, and we'll cover it, man. We'll see what's going on. I know more documents are coming out from the U.S. Right to Know campaign about all these scientists. Just let me leave you with this. So far, the document dump has only covered 3 scientists. But Gary Ruskin and his organization submitted FOIA requests, that's the Freedom of Information Act, for I think 43 scientists. So there is a lot more coming out. We are going to see Monsanto's ties to academia exposed across the board like no one has ever seen before. We're talking about showing the absolute academic prostitution of American universities. It's going to be shocking. So just watch for that in the next week and even beyond.
That's excellent, Mike. I will see you next time on Health Revolt. This has been James White and Mike Adams. Bye now.
Oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.